My clock says 2 o'clock. Is that?
Yep.
I don't see Sherry yet. We were expecting her to join us today. We're
Just coming in. I can see
Okay.
her getting logged in.
okay.
And Dan is away. He sent regrets.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Sherry.
Hey,
Hi, Sherry.
We're
good, we're good, awesome.
just ready to get started, so good timing. So I guess we'll get started with today's meeting. Welcome everyone to our council meeting for September the 13th. And I'll call the meeting to order. Our first item on our agenda is to adopt the agenda itself. So I have a recommendation here that the agenda for the September 13th, 2021 regular meeting of council be accepted and passed. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, Steve? Sherry? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. We'll move on to disclosure of pecuniary interest on anything on today's agenda. I have none to declare. Sherry?
No,
Lisa?
No.
Steve?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And right from there, we'll recess to move into the public meeting to deal with the Committee of Adjustment item we have. So we have a recommendation here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North recess the September 13th, 2021 regular meeting of council at 2:02 p.m. for the purpose of holding a public meeting under the Planning Act. This is for Jorge and Maria Barros, minor variance. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. So we are recessed from our council meeting. So we'll switch over to our Committee of Adjustment meeting agenda. And I will call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order and ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest in regard to this Committee of Adjustment agenda item. I have none to declare. Councillor McCabe?
I have none.
Councillor Hearn?
No, none.
And Councillor Burke?
no,
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to meetings of the previous Committee of Adjustment meeting. A recommendation that Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes of August 23rd, 2021, application A12/21 be adopted as presented. Could I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Lisa. Okay, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. We'll move on to our application for today. This is application A14/21 for Jorge and Maria Barros. The location of the subject property is described as Plan 175, Lot 7, and is municipally known as 525, Prince Charles Street in Mount Forest. The property is approximately 0.06 hectares in size, and the location of the property is shown on the map in your package. Purpose and effect of this application is permit a permanent parking space in the front yard. The applicants are proposing to add a second driveway in front of the main building to allow accessible parking for wheelchair access. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How is notice given for this public meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property and as well as to the applicable agencies, and signage was posted on September 2nd.
Great, thank you. Matthew, I see your face has popped up. Are you going to be giving us a presentation on this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead when you're ready.
Perfect, thanks. So through you, Chair, good afternoon to council as well as the public. So before you today is a minor variance application to provide relief from section 627(4), which states that all permanent parking spaces within a residential zone shall be to the rear of the front of the main building. So the applicant is proposing to add a permanent parking space in the front yard to allow for accessible parking for wheelchair access and a ramp. The planning staff have no concerns with the application as the request is minor, meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and I welcome any questions.
Great, thanks, Matthew. Has there any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
Yes, comments were received from the Wellington, other than what's listed on the agenda, comments were received from Wellington Source Water Protection, and they have no concerns.
Okay. Thank you. Just notice here, anyone wishing to be notified of the decision of this, the application must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. And with that being said, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments from the public. Do we have anyone registered to speak on this one, Karen?
No, we do not.
So I guess we don't have any of those to do then. With that, we'll open the floor for any members of the committee for questions or comments.
I have none at all.
Okay. I would just add that I think in these type of situations where someone needs accessibility, I'm more than happy to grant a variance to allow that to happen. And I'm glad they were willing to come forward and request it and make so we can make it happen for them. So with that, we'll move on to a decision. So we just need a show of hands and I'll just read it out. The minor variance applied for in application A14/21 for the property described as Plan 175 Lot 7 and is municipally known as 525 Prince Charles Street in Mount Forest to provide the following relief. Number one, that permanent parking spaces in front of the front wall of the main building be permitted for an existing residence, whereas the bylaw requires that all parking spaces within a residential zone shall be to the rear of the front wall of the main building. All those in favor? That's approved. Thanks very much. And with that, all we got left on this agenda is to adjourn this meeting. So the recommendation is that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of September 13th, 2021 be adjourned. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we're adjourned from our Committee of Adjustment meeting. We'll move back to our regular council meeting agenda. Okay, so I have a recommendation here to resume the regular meeting of council. And the recommendation reads as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North resume the September 13th, 2021 regular meeting of council at 2:08 p.m. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor? That's carried. So we are back in session of the council meeting. Our next agenda item is our deputation for today. We have some people from the Senior Center for Excellence led by Helen Edwards to join us today. So if whenever you've got Helen moved in, ready to go, Karen, we'll
Yeah,
welcome her.
Yeah, with Helen is Glennis, Doris, Patty, and Kay. So if you guys want to turn your cameras on. And then are you going to share your screen, Helen, or do you want me to run the presentation?
Well, I wasn't quite sure if we wanted to, oh, hello, everyone. I wasn't quite sure if we wanted to go through the presentation or if people had had a chance to look at the presentation in their package and had questions. Either way, I'm happy, but I just made the presentations a little bit longer than maybe the deputation allows for. So I didn't know if we wanted to speak to the reason that we were here, and then if people had questions about the presentation, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions.
Okay, that's fine, Helen, but is there anything in the presentation you'd particularly like to highlight? There's, like you say, there's a fair bit of information in there.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll start with that. If you've got some things you'd like to highlight, then we can come back. round.
Okay, so mostly I'm here to speak about with my supporters here who are members of the Wellington North, live in Wellington North. I wanted to speak about our New Horizons program and a position that was created as a result of the New Horizons program, which Glynis, who is waving there. She is our ACE coordinator, which is active, connected, and engaged. And Glynis has been working hard at work on our Zoom programming, which we've been offering almost since the beginning of the pandemic. And we have heard from seniors in the area that they want virtual programming to continue. Some of them are not ready to go back out and do in-person activities. And in fact, most in-person activities are not running yet. We have enough funding to keep Glynis's position going until the beginning of the new year, mostly because we went to the Town of Minto Council in August, and they were able to grant our request for $10,000 in support. And what we're asking from the town of the Wellington North is that that they donate a similar amount or work that into their 2022 budget so that we can keep the program running through until the spring of 2022, when we hope things will be back to normal. We know from speaking to seniors that this Zoom programming has been extremely important to them, has given them things to look forward to during COVID. And I think with the time of year that is approaching and the fact that we're not really sure what's happening with a potential fourth wave, that it'll be very comforting to seniors to have the ability to still attend a Zoom programming throughout the winter months.
Okay.
So I would welcome any questions.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Any questions from council? Steve, go ahead.
Thanks very much for this, Helen, and all your cohorts there. I think it is a very important program, what you're doing. I know during the pandemic, although all my family lives in the 519 area code, it was nice to have mom on Zoom, and she kind of picked up on it slower than perhaps maybe a little bit, but she's very prominent at it now. I guess my only one question was, is this able to go into retirement homes at all, or is it all just strictly in municipal buildings, or is there a part that we could go into nursing homes to help those that are not able to get out and see family, or maybe don't have access to the tools for them to use Zoom to see their family or friends?
Yeah, absolutely. It's open to anyone who has an email address. And for those who don't have an internet connection, we have a party line program, which is like it sounds, it's over the telephone. And that's for people who cannot connect in with the internet, but anyone who has an email address, and we'll help you create one if you don't have one, they are able to attend our Zoom. And in fact, we have people attending from different facilities and different buildings within the community. But the vast majority are right now people from the community that are living in their own homes. But it's not because it's not available to anyone can come.
Okay, great, thank you.
Other questions?
So maybe I might speak, sorry, to a little bit of the variety of the programming that we offer, because I'm not sure if people know the kind of programs that we offer. So we offer everything from sort of general interest stories. We always have our focus on positive aging, because we happen to think it's a good thing that people get older. We were speaking this morning that the older citizens are the best citizens. You don't very often have to call the police, and they always pay their taxes, and they keep our volunteer organizations going. So we think like getting older is a great thing. We want to focus on the positives of getting older. And but we have general interest, travel. We have virtual tours of places we might not be able to go. Next month, we're going to the Alexander Graham Bell Museum in Baddock, Nova Scotia, to have a virtual tour there. And not only that, but we highlight local businesses. So we've had the Old Hound ice cream shop has been one of our presenters, and we purchase gift certificates from local businesses and have them as gifts for our Friday Facebook challenges. And yeah, so there's a great wide span of guests, and I thought I did really well because I got I talked Dave Phillips into coming from Environment Canada, and he was right at the very beginning, and I think he was humbled by how small the crowd was. But at Christmas, we had Floyd Cheek come on, and he's a local Drayton person, and he had 66 people come on. So but we've had a lot of fun, and we try and include lots of different interests. So I don't know if Glynis wanted to say a few words. I know Glynis feels kind of uneasy a little bit about being here because we're asking for money for her position, but I also thought it was important for her to show her face, as you may not be familiar with her.
Yes, thanks, Helen, and thank you, Counsel and Mr. Mayor. Yes, I am a little humbled for sure, but I'm also really thankful that you care enough about the senior population that you're listening to us today, and that you may consider our request. And I think seniors who are socially connected and engaged have a stronger sense of belonging, which actually translates into better physical, mental, and emotional health. But it's not for me that you want to hear from today. So I think Helen is going to introduce some of your locals. So Helen, thank you for listening to me.
I'm going to start with Kay Ayres. Kay lives in Mount Forest with her dog Joey, who is just adorable. And I think Kay has something that she wanted to share.
Whoops, you're muted, Kay. Kay, oh, there we go.
Oh, there she is.
Am I muted now?
No,
yeah, you're good.
Okay, so thank you very much for having me here. What I wanted to address was the fact that I'm a senior and I live alone. So if I did not have the computer and contact with other people, the last year and a half would have been long darn days and long nights, that's for sure. So I love Glynis's program that it pops in twice a week, 3 times a week sometimes, and engages us in conversation. I've been one of her speakers at one point in time, talking about my trip with polar bears, and I was just thrilled at how interested the people were. When you talk about spending money, and I too don't want taxes to go any higher. However, we as seniors are a great example of what we do not cost the township. So I've never had to have the police here to take me away because I was drunk or disorderly. I'm no longer making children that you have to educate. And so, you know, and I do pay my property taxes on time, every time. So there's just, if money could go towards seniors, I think this is a great way for it to go. So does anyone have any questions for me? All right.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that, because I don't know if I have any answers. So, but I do think it's a great program. I'm sure as heck would like you to see you folks support it. So I'm going to pass my time now over to Doris.
Thank you, Kay, and thank you, Mayor Lennox and councillors. My name's Doris Castan. I live in Arthur. I've been facilitating the creative writing group with the Senior Centre for Excellence for at least 2 years. First at the library and now online. We meet monthly. We usually have between 4 and 6 attendees, and we continue to recruit members. 2 of our stalwarts were in the library-based group, but the remaining membership lives all over in North Wellington, Palmerston, Drayton, Mount Forest, Arthur, and that is constantly changing. Their ages range from the 50s to the 80s. And excuse me, our older members are quite good at Zooming. It's been my experience that adoption of technology has nothing to do with age. It's more about mindset and motivation. And our Zoomers really want to socialize, so they're motivated. Originally, we had planned to do the Zoom-based writing group for 6 months and see how it went. But in June, when I asked the group if they wanted to take the summer off, they said no. So we've been carrying on. We had some wonderful stories written about the past. So you could say that there's a component of reminiscence therapy in this writing group, but also it's an outlet for creativity. So I've thought about what will happen once we can meet in person, and I truly don't know how this group would do that when Zoom works so well. I don't even know if they all have transportation. And as we meet in the evening, because some people are still working or busy through the day. And as we move into winter, that would mean driving in the dark and possibly in bad weather. Excuse me. And I try to avoid both of those things myself. So I think others would as well. I know that Glynis's role is more than arranging Zooms, and she has certainly helped me with that piece. I've also attended a few of the informative Zooms that she arranged, and I'm now so excited about barn quilts. They have a bunch of them now in Palmerston, and I think we need them too in Wellington North. There were over 20 people at that talk, and Glynis coordinates all sorts of interesting ways to connect. I know that seniors rely on that. Loneliness and boredom are the demons of aging, and the SCE programs really do combat those two things. I heartily support this request to keep the New Horizons ACE position going. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions for any of our panelists?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Andy. And thanks for everyone that participated in this presentation.
I think we have one more. Oh, I'm to introduce now.
Oh,
I would
I'm
like to
sorry.
introduce, sorry. I would like to introduce Patty Emery, who also lives in Arthur, and you possibly know her through her many other community activities. But Patty's going to speak about the Zoom sessions, and you need to unmute, Patty.
Okay, am I unmuted?
You are.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. With the closing of the seniors hall where I work, due to COVID being closed, many seniors were left feeling very depressed and very lonely. Many of us use the seniors hall at least 3 times a week, and they had nowhere to go. The Zoom program with Glynis has been a super replacement. We cover all kinds of topics, things from local things like where to get honey, where to get mustard. Some of the programs are interactive, which is really cool. You get to cook, you get to do flower arrangements, and all from your own house. One of the best programs that she had was decorating cupcakes. I invited my granddaughter, who is 8, over, and we had the best looking cupcakes ever. And she was so excited that we could do this together. And there were other grandparents who were also working with their grandchildren, creating masterpieces. It was just the best. We also had other programs like flower arranging. And we picked up all our flowers from the flower store in Drayton and brought them home and listened carefully as we made a masterpiece that looked like we knew what we were doing, which we didn't before. We have no idea when the Senior Citizens Hall will open again. It may not open until next spring. We don't know. But we would greatly like it if this program could continue so that we could enjoy more programs, learn more things, and have a great time with others who are seniors. We would really appreciate it if you could financially support us. Minto has helped us, and with your help, we'll be able to continue the program next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Patty, ahead of time, but I wanted to open it up for council if they have any questions. I'm not seeing anybody else, so I have a couple of questions, and a couple of them are just kind of mundane process type questions. But the first one I have is, you've been doing this for a while. Is this continuing to reach more people, or is it kind of stabilized, and where do you see the future of that, I guess is my question.
We have actually continued to reach more people. And in fact, our newsletter, which we call the Heart and Soul of Wellington, has almost, well, it's seen about a 60% increase since we had, mostly I think that's like through, Glennis is like pulling us, dragging, kicking and screaming into social media. And there's so many seniors on Facebook. Like Facebook is the older person's social media site. And so we've connected with so many more people. I would say we've connected with a lot of people who don't travel due to either health concerns or couldn't attend our dining due to perhaps financial considerations. So we've maintained the number of people that we serve, but I would say our reach is actually quite a bit larger. And through COVID, there were some silver linings. Like the one is that I think seniors are a lot more technologically. Yeah. Wow. Glennis, put that down in our word of the month.
I will.
Like it's been amazing how many people now can connect into a Zoom meeting and attend things that weren't doing it before. So I think we continue to see an increase in the desire to attend Zoom. And also through our newsletter and our Facebook page, we are receiving more and more inquiries all the time. So will I need to do something to try and keep this Zoom program going for a while past this? Yes, but this is what I'm sort of looking for now, is just until we get to the end of COVID.
Okay. It certainly opens up the opportunities. You know, I was listening to your comments, Doris, about not wanting to drive when it's dark or bad weather, but you know, as more people get used to this type of interaction, it opens up more opportunities for those people who may not be as mobile as they may have been in the past, and even after the COVID scenario. So that's one of the reasons I was asking, you know, is there continuing to be more people adopting the idea and getting on board, because I think it does open up an opportunity for the future as well.
Absolutely.
Steve, I think I saw your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Lennox. I think Patty made a great point about the Arthur Seniors Hall not being available to be open for the seniors in Arthur. And I think that that's an important, this program has an important part to play to keep the seniors in this area, not just Arthur, but Wellington and Wellington North connected. And I wouldn't see this as spending dollars on a program. I would see it as investing in our seniors as well and their well-being through this pandemic and post-pandemic as well.
If I can interject here for a second, I'm a member of the Mount Forest Seniors Group, and when we stopped playing cards, they meet every Wednesday afternoon for cards. We stopped playing in March of 2020, and we had 107 members. We now have 90. And
wow.
Nobody quit. That's how many have passed away or gone into a nursing home. It's shocking.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay, I have a couple of just quick process questions. Helen, probably I'm going to direct these to you. So I just want to be clear about what the ask is with regard to timing.
When we went to the town of Minto, they had some money left over that they received from COVID, from the government under their emergency program to support community organizations. And so they were able to say that they would be able to issue us a check for $10,000. And we expect that in the next week or so. So that will get us through until 2022, so January. So what I was hoping is that as you work at the new budget, that you would be able to find the ability to support the senior center in the amount of $10,000 in January, February time of 2022.
Okay. So yeah, I'm in favor of trying to provide the support. I'm not sure what whether we have money in the same account that Minto did that we could use or not, but certainly I'm open to that discussion. So I just wanted to clarify in terms of timing. So you don't need an answer immediately, but so we have a little bit of time to sort out where it could come from.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's great. And any other members of council have any other questions, comments? Okay. Mike, are you with us still?
I am.
So do we still have some of those COVID dollars that we could use, if I can call them that?
So yeah, not to presuppose the end game today. We've had some discussions internally among staff about potential funding streams, safe restart funds being one potentially, as well as council and community contingency reserve fund as another avenue that we will maybe look at. So with assuming that Mayor Lennox, you'll get support from the other members of council, we can do some additional legwork from a staff level just to confirm our options, and then probably get back to council before the end of the year and proceed in that manner, if that's suitable.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So yes, ladies, I think at least I am in favor of trying to find a way to help this move forward. I can thank you for your presentation. I'm sure this new format has generated a few stories that you share from time to time as well. So I look forward to hearing more of those as time progresses. And again, thank you for taking the time to come and spend it with us this afternoon. Oh, Karen?
Oh,
Just so we close the loop in the minutes, are we providing direction to staff to investigate funding options and bring a report back to council?
Sherry, did I see your hand there? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just made that note actually, as a side note, how we move forward. If we need a motion to do that, I would definitely support that, because I think that this is a good initiative to support for our seniors and to keep them connected.
Okay, so is everybody comfortable with the direction that Karen kind of suggested?
And then the vote would come at the time the report is received to, ratify the recommendation.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. I see lots of nods, so I think we can go ahead on that basis. Okay. And sorry.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. We really appreciate it.
yes, we do. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Hey.
I'll be sure to explain to my wife that now Facebook is for seniors.
And remember to remind her how great being a senior is, though.
Yes, I'll be watching for her.
You're looking forward to it. Like those that aren't there, they can't wait to get there.
That's right.
Well,
Thank
one
you.
thing I know for sure is every day we get one day older. So
Amen. Yes, we do. We may as well celebrate it.
yeah, that's
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Next up, we have our adoption of minutes of council and public meeting from August 23rd. I have a recommendation here that the minutes of the regular meeting of council and public meeting held on August 23rd, 2021 be adopted as circulated. I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. Any discussion on those minutes? Lisa, go ahead.
Yes, under the public meeting minutes, Penny Rankin did just text me a little while ago, and her name is spelled incorrectly under comments from the public, I guess it was. She would like to have her and her husband's name spelling corrected. It's
Okay.
spelled Rankin, not Rankin.
We'll make that, sorry about that. Yeah, we'll make that.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments on those minutes? So with those amendments being included, we'll pass the recommendation as is. Karen, is that the way?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. Got the item as business arising from a previous meeting of council. We have a resolution here with regard to a portion of Clyde Street. So I'll read the recommendation. Be it resolved that the unopened portion of Clyde Street fronting on Ayrshire Street be declared surplus to the needs of the municipality. So could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. Any discussion on that one? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're on now to items for consideration. So let's go ahead and pick out those ones we'd like to have some more discussion on. Steve, go ahead.
I'd like to have a look at 3A, RSM Building Consultants on page 26.
Okay.
5B on page 37 with regards to the funeral or cemetery maintenance.
Okay.
7A on page 72, just with the traffic counts.
Okay.
That's page 92.
Sorry, page 92, yes. 7C on page 114.
Okay.
And then finally 8A on page 120.
Okay.
They're very short questions. It's not going to be a long conversation. Just need some more information. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have others? Go ahead, Sherry.
7B,
7B. That's the,
that has to
Traffic?
do with the traffic as well.
yeah, okay. Anybody have any others?
No, I missed 6A, Mayor Lennox. Sorry, page 87, the
The fire service
fire service
update?
report.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Any others?
There isn't much left, so no.
Sorry.
Okay, so just recap. So we've got pulled out for discussion 3A, 5B, 6A, 7A, B, C, and 8A.
Correct.
Okay, last call for others. Okay, so I'm not seeing any others. We will go right to adopting everything that's left. So I have a recommendation here that all items listed under items for consideration on the September 13th, 2021 council agenda, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved, and the recommendations therein be adopted. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So that brings us back to 3A. And I'll read the recommendation here, if you'll bear with me. Recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report CBO 2021-11, being a report on RSM Building Consultants, Inc. And further, the council authorized the mayor and clerk to enter into a bylaw to appoint Gerald Moore as a building official under the Building Code Act for the corporation of the Township of Wellington North for the purpose of carrying out or enforcing regulations in accordance with the Building Code Act. And further, that council authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a bylaw to appoint Barbara, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Monsney, as a building official under the Building Code Act for the corporation of the Township of Wellington North for the purpose of carrying out or enforcing regulations in accordance with the Building Code Act. Need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. Thank you. And with that, I'll open the floor for questions. And I think you pulled this one out first, Steve, so.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Mayor, just a quick question to, I guess, Mike or to Darren. Just reading this, what kind of financial cost would there be to have these like RSM kind of on an as needed basis?
So through you, Mayor Lennox, their fees would be kind of project specific. So for this project, we're anticipating their fees to be $2,600, and building permit fees for this project we're anticipating to be plus or minus $9,000. So there's no retainer. Their fees are as needed.
Okay, so it's just kind of a one-off for every one call kind of that they get then.
Yep, that's great.
Great, thank you, Darren.
Any other questions? Thanks, Steve. Any other questions in regard to this report? Okay. Oh, Sherry, did you have a question?
Yeah, so so through you, Mayor Lennox, to Darren, I guess. So we're just going to use these folks for larger projects, or if we see a huger influx, is that sort of what we're looking at using this firm for?
Right now, the idea is just for this one project. It's fairly complex, and we're anticipating time consuming. But hopefully we're successful in getting a building inspector in the next couple of months, which would hopefully alleviate that need.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, then I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. That brings us now to, is it 5B, I guess now. So I'll read the recommendation here. It's in regard to the cemetery care and maintenance, and the recommendation reads that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received report TR 2021-14, being a report on cemetery care and maintenance, cash management and administrative requirements. And further, the council directs staff to transition the township care and maintenance trust activities to guaranteed funeral deposits for future administration. Need a mover and a seconder to get that on the floor. Moved by Lisa, seconded by Steve. And questions, comments in regard to this one? Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, Andy, and through you. Just another cost question. I guess this is probably more directed to you, Adam, as I see you pop up. I'm not opposed to this at all. I just want to know what kind of a, I guess, what kind of cut is the guaranteed funeral deposits group kind of going to make off of this? I obviously know they're not going to do it for free. And I'm all for freeing up staff time, and does that make it worth it?
For you, Mayor Lennox, they're a flat 1%, Steve, to cut right to the chase.
Okay.
But given their suite of services, I think that's well spent. I think with the robust service offering, including dedicated investment oversight and report offerings, I think it's a well spent 1%.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I just have one quick one for you, Adam, and I know you've already dealt with this, but I'm just curious, and that is because this is perpetual care related issues, they must have some sort of special recognition for the security of their investments in order to make it suitable for this? I'm just curious what that looks like, or if you can share that.
I'd have to dig further into that one, Mayor Lennox, to determine what special provisions they do have to satisfy the requirements being dollars held in trust. But happy to report back on that end. I know that they do have about $32 million in assets, so they are not new to the game and are fairly well known within the industry.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 6A. This is in regard to the fire service Q2 update. And I'll read the recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the Wellington North Fire Service Q2 update 2021. Mover and seconder, please. Steve and Sherry, thank you. With that, I'll open the floor. Steve, I think you had some questions.
Yeah, I just have one, Mayor Lennox, and thanks for this. That's, I guess I'll direct it right to you, Chief Harold. I saw the bit about the recruitment and stuff like that, and it's too bad that we're losing some of our volunteers to full-time jobs. I'm happy that they're getting full-time jobs in firefighting professional. But what, like, just as our own council, like the five of us, what can we do more of to get the word out? I know your social media has taken off fairly well, and I quite enjoy seeing what you guys are broadcasting and posting and tweeting. But just in general, like what more could we do as a council to help you guys out and get more people interested in the recruitment drive?
Yeah, thanks, Councilor McCabe. Through you, Mayor Lennox. A big thing is just promoting it in the community with us. Is when out at events, and that is just promoting what a great organization we have and what a great municipality we have, because it's definitely something we need to push out there, that please join a great organization. There was so many rewards in that. To speak a bit more on it, I think coming out of COVID is going to be very, very difficult, because so many people are used to a lot more free time and a lot more kind of sitting on their couches, or they found other things to do with their time. So to try and get people to volunteer and come out is going to be very difficult, to get people out of that mode and want to get back involved in their community. And not just for the fire department, I'm sure for other organizations as well. So I think the more council talks it up and then promotes it with everybody, and people that have lived in the community for years and thought, something I've thought about and maybe want to do, then to kind of push them to come out and see what we can do, and definitely contact us. And we're more than happy to meet with people and show what we can do and how we can work with them, because we're looking to work with firefighters in any sort of way to try and get them to belong to our organization and stay here for a long period of time and grow with us. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Any other questions or comments? Lisa, go ahead.
Question or comment, and it's actually completely unrelated almost, except that it has to do with fire. So I apologize. I just had to share that I saw something put out by the Ontario government this morning about barn fire safety, and I was going to share it with Chris Harrow. It was actually one of your old classmates, Mayor Lennox, Andrew Barry, and they talked about vacuuming your electrical panel and all sorts of cool stuff. So I'm literally going to haul my vacuum out and dust the cobwebs off of it. So anyways, I thought I would share that with you, and it's completely not related, but it was a great little video.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, if you could send that to me or send me the link, that we could have a look at that for sure. We're always looking for different ways to do our public education campaigns and that. And the agriculture community is always one that we're trying hard to look at, but it's very hard to find good stuff to send to them. So I would appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 7A. This is in regard to traffic count, and I'll read the recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received for information report Ops 2021-26, being a report on traffic counts. And could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. And with that, I'll open the floor for questions or comments. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor Lennox, and I guess more directed to you, Matt, as Director of Operations. I can't just recall the MTO's numbers, but how do their numbers and our numbers compare?
Thanks through you, Mayor Lennox. These numbers have been shared with RJ Burnside, who's representing Sobeys on the north end. I would have to check actually to know a little bit more detail. They remain consistent, the May numbers to the July numbers, but I will take a note here and we will get back to you on that one because I can't give you the exact numbers on their counts.
Sorry, yeah, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. Yeah, I think this should be shared with the MTO as well as the maybe the OPP and of course the people that are looking after Sobeys, because I think this really actually highlights the traffic volume that is there, not necessarily just on a long weekend, but on almost on every Friday night through the summer for sure. And yeah, I guess we'll see where that takes us.
Other questions, comments? I just had one. Did you have your hand up, Sherry?
No, sorry.
Okay, no, I just caught a glimpse of something in the corner of my eye, so didn't want to be passing over you. I just was thinking of a comment myself in regard to traffic counts and thinking about it in the context of how our communities are growing. And, you know, I know we don't maybe have that thorough of historical information as we've been getting recently, but just kind of tracking it over years would be useful in terms of seeing what's happening from traffic as our community grows as well. So if there are some hot spots such as, you know, our main street in both Mount Forest and Arthur and some of those, and we could see a trend on it, it would be useful, I think, from a policymaking perspective. And I recognize we may not have the data today, but as we go forward, if we kind of look at that, I think that would be a useful tool. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call the motion then. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And we got another one with regard to regulating traffic. So this is 7B. Read the recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report Ops 2021-24, being a report to update bylaw 10-8, a bylaw to regulate traffic in the Township of Wellington North, and further that Council approve the housekeeping changes as identified within this report and direct staff to bring a revised bylaw back to a future meeting of Council. Can I get a mover, seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. And with that, I'll open the floor for questions, comments. Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I pulled this and my question is to Matt. And I'm just wondering through that schedule, Matt, if you could highlight the changes, because I was kind of going through it and I thought I couldn't, as I was going down, I couldn't envision the differences. So I'm just wondering if there are any highlights that he could bring to our attention.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lennox, to Councillor Burke. I can give kind of a high level overview of some of the things that were changed. The reason we started looking at the traffic bylaw was to add stop signs that have come about as a result of development. So Parker and Paula streets out in Kenilworth, they have stop signs that weren't reflected in the bylaw. Schmidt Drive area of town in Arthur, and actually Ruby's Crescent and Ronnie's Way in Mount Forest weren't reflected. But as we got into it, the old bylaw really spoke to the the former municipalities, West Garry, Township of Arthur. So we combined it all into one list. As well, what we ended up doing is we ended up consolidating the load limit bylaw, so the spring restriction on roads, as well as the load limit on bridges bylaw into this bylaw as well. So sort of consolidated those three existing bylaws into one. But the real changes had to do with new development stop signs that just over the years weren't reflected in the existing stop sign bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? And by the way, thank you, Sherry, for asking that question, because I was struggling with the same thing. Last call for any questions or comments. Okay, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. And we're on to 7C now. This is in regard to the re-rating of the Mount Forest water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant. And the recommendation reads as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report Ops 2021-29, being a report to provide a status update on the work associated with re-rating the Mount Forest wastewater treatment plant. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Lisa. And we'll open the floor for questions, comments. Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Lennox. It's encouraging to see that we're well below our the capacity in both Arthur and Mount Forest with the average daily inflow. I just have a quick question for the re-rating, and I love that we're getting out in front of this, hopefully early, before there's a lot more development in Mount Forest. Just wondering what kind of a timeline we're working with, or how long the re-rating will take, Matt.
Through you, Mayor Lennox, to Councillor McCabe. I think the time frame is uncertain. The existing ECA for the Mount Forest wastewater treatment plant did have a provision to re-rate it to 3,500. The report that's before council this afternoon suggests that there hasn't been any kind of significant impact on the microvertebrae or the small organisms that live in the river, looking at it from 2004 to 2020, which I think is a good news story, but it's still early stages as far as the township working with the MOE to re-rate it. So I would think it's for sure a several year project, but it's really, the next step is really going to be to work with the MTO to try to figure out a terms of reference on what the MTO expects in order for us to re-rate, and that'll give us some indication of a time frame.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt.
Other questions, comments? So I just had one, and this comes from the throwback from the days when we first started talking about expansion in Arthur. When we start talking about assimilative capacity in the river, as I recall, one of the hitches with that, in the Arthur situation, was good water flow data in the river. Are we currently, under the current ECA in Mount Forest, obligated to collect river flow data?
Through you, Mayor Lennox, not that I'm aware of. We don't have, as a township, any river flow monitoring in Mount Forest that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I think Saugeen does, Mayor Lennox, sorry to jump in. I think Saugeen does monitor that section of river. I can, if you want, I can try and find some information for that if you'd like, just some historical data.
Well, I'm just thinking that if we get to that assimilative capacity study and that's required, then good river flow data will be a big part of that. And if the Conservation Authority has that data, that's fantastic. I just was concerned that if we need to start collecting that data, then that changes timelines significantly.
I think I shouldn't speak out of turn, but I do believe they keep that kind of data on file. So if needed, I'm sure we can lean on them, or I can talk to Jennifer as well.
Okay. Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're starting this process because we believe that it is going to be a multi-year process, or is it because we're getting close to the rated capacity that are we getting close to the rated capacity for the plant?
Do you want to tackle that one, Matt or Mike? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yep, thanks. Through you, Mayor Lennox. I think we're just doing it to get ahead of it. It was something I think that was always envisioned to come following the ECA. But if we look at the numbers in the report, Mount Forest is currently trending at about 1,800. So we have about 1,000 units in Mount Forest. So it's not critical at this point, but because it's a long process, it's critical we get ahead of it and get our head around what's going to be required to re-rate in Mount Forest.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike, did you have anything you want to add to that?
I think Matt mostly covered the key points. I think what we're trying to avoid from a staff perspective, Councillor Burke, is that we end up in a spot like we were in Arthur, where development is stymied because we have no additional capacity on the wastewater side of things. So wastewater always tends to get the focus because we're sensitive to what happened in Arthur, but we're looking at capacity needs for all of our service needs. But yeah, I think, as Matt said, it's more trying to get ahead of it as opposed to at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And certainly with the volume of development applications and so on, we've been seeing it, it maybe gives it a greater sense of urgency than we've maybe had in the past few years. We're seeing the potential for getting to that capacity sooner than we may have in the past.
Right.
Okay, if there's nothing further, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. That brings us to 8A. This is in regard to the municipal comprehensive review of the county official plan. And I don't think I want to read that whole recommendation.
That's why I asked for it.
So I'm going to trust that you all have the recommendation in front of you and ask for a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. Okay, and we'll open the floor for discussion on that. And I recognize, Mike, you had to take the time to write it all. I'm just being lazy. Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lennox, and through you, I guess this is obviously to Mike then as the author of this report. Yeah, it was extensive, and I like the recommendations that are going forward to the excuse me, to the county. Again, it seems like costs and time frame are the theme to my questions today. But I guess what is the time frame now that the recommendations have been put forward to the county? And then what are the next steps that we can take as a township?
Thanks, Councillor McCabe. And I may lean on the mayor for some of this because I know he has a good handle on the process at the county level. Our understanding is that county staff and their consultants are working towards having kind of a draft report in the fall. So I'm thinking that would be like October, November. And then I believe there will be more public consultations that will need to happen as well. As part of this, Councillor McCabe, there are part of the consultation process, a lot of the landowners who are maybe impacted by what decisions come out of the municipal comprehensive review have an opportunity to reach out to county staff and say, well, this is, you know, our vision for the lands that we own, things of that nature. So it will take the the consultation process itself is lengthy.
Yep.
I think ambitiously they're looking to complete the review early in 2022, but I don't, and Mayor Lennox may have a better sense in terms of what the conversations have been with County Council in terms of the timelines, but.
Great, thanks, Mike. Yeah, no, I just was curious just because we had that one deputation for George Turnbull, and I can't think of the guy that he had retained, just with the lands just south of County Road 109, so, and Center Side Road, so just curious on that, so thanks very much.
Yeah, through you, Councillor McCabe, I think at this point we're aware of at least 6 property owners or consultants, 5 potential applications or impacts in Arthur and 1 in Mount Forest that have come forward during the process already, and there may be more that come forward as well. So
great, thank you, Mike.
I would just add to that too, Steve, that this Mike has laid out Wellington North's needs and position in this official plan process. Our position and needs are significantly different than other municipalities across the county, and this will have to somehow we have to arrive at a balance countywide. One of the unique positions that we are in Wellington North is that we have a very good supply of developable land inside our urban boundaries. Other municipalities do not necessarily have that, and that will create its own set of headaches countywide. Also, there's an unevenness of development anticipated over the time horizon across the county, with Center Wellington scheduled to take again the lion's share of the growth. They're the largest municipality, and maybe not the highest growth in percentage terms, but in raw numbers of people and expansion, they are slated to take the vast majority of the growth. Places like Puslinch and Welfare Amasa, which don't have any of their own water and wastewater services, or wastewater in particular services, they're very limited in their growth potential, even though they're close to the urban center and major transportation arteries. The growth is really slated. You're in to take a big chunk of it, as I'm sure you're aware. They're in the process of developing a wastewater treatment system, and Center Wellington taking the big chunk, and then us and Minto in percentage terms taking a similar amount. But because we're a larger population municipality, larger numbers of people than any of the other municipalities, save and except for Erin and Center Wellington. So there's a lot to go into this. And I think it's fantastic that we lay out what we think is the best workable solution for Wellington North, and look for council's input and endorsement of that, because I think we're going to need to have a united front to try to get what we need out of this to suit the needs of our community. So if you have comments as we go along, or you see something that's concerned, please bring it to my attention or others, and we'll try to carry this forward. We have 2 other county councilors that represent us in our communities. Let them know as well. I would say we need to, make sure that the needs for the future. This is a really long time horizon. We need to try to make sure that to the best of our knowledge, we're getting the right plan to serve our communities for not just today, but for 30 years from now, which seems like a long time off.
Yeah, thanks, Andy.
Mike?
Mayor Lennox, with your indulgence, just to build on your comments, from a staff perspective, Councillor McCabe and all of council, we've really tried to formulate the recommendations and build on our community growth plan that we did locally, and had consultations that included the county at that point. So that's been kind of a guiding force for us. I think the other piece that staff has been relying on, probably Mike more than anyone, is that conversations with council as we've had growth opportunities come forward, is that we're pretty comfortable addressing growth within our community up around the population number of around 20,000. That's kind of what we've talked about through our community growth plan. and where we're comfortable. As Mayor Lennox has indicated, we have what the county sees and across the county as a surplus of lands that probably would take our population beyond 20,000 potentially. And our position at this point is we're happy at 20. That's where we want to go. That's where we want to control the 20. You'll note that that's one of the recommendations. This is something I've heard from all of councilors all over and over, is that we want some level of control of the growth. We don't want it to happen all at once. We want it to stagger so that we can address servicing needs and building a real community throughout. So those are some of the guiding forces that we're kind of providing back to the county from a staff level as we work through the broader context of the overall county. Mayor Lennox is bang on in terms of Aaron's identified, they have to address wastewater. Center Wellington's always been seen as, growing, and I think we all see that in terms of their population base. But we're right there next, and that's, we think we can easily meet our growth forecast. Not easily, we will meet our growth forecast, but we want to make it understood to everybody involved, including our own staff, how we're going to get there and where we're comfortable and how quickly it needs to happen or can happen. And working with the county to do that in unison, which can be a bit challenging, but we think we're doing a good job so far.
Other questions, comments? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, so my concern, I guess, is when we're looking at potentially suggesting that we have surplus land designated for future development and moving possibly municipal boundaries around that. Do we tie our hands, because we're talking about growth, do we tie our hands on future development for employment for this growth? And service and industrial land, because we don't have a lot of industrial land left here in Wellington North.
Do you want to tackle that one, Mike?
Yeah, I can try and tackle that, and maybe with council's indulgence, I'll try and share screen just to give kind of, I like the visuals, and hopefully this will help as it relates to the question around the industrial piece. So can council see the map on the screen?
Yeah.
So this map reflects the official plan designations, councilors. So everything in purple. So this is the northeast end of Mount Forest. So everything in purple is designated industrial, which is significant, I would say. So I think although we don't have lands that are zoned industrial within our community, we have a significant portion that from an official plan standpoint are viewed as industrial. Part of what we're trying to recognize that there are certain circumstances where the official plan acknowledges these as industrial lands, and we want to be reflective of what their actual use is, so that, yeah, we don't rely on the fact that it shows up as the official plan as being industrial if we know that it's never going to be industrial. I guess, and I hope that makes sense, because we want to acknowledge the lands that we think really are going to have the potential to be industrial, and to designate lands that aren't going to be industrial as something else, and potentially agriculture for some of these lands, because they've been that way generationally and we don't anticipate it changing. But absolutely, Councillor Burke, part of it's not just about population growth. Yeah, the considerations through the MCR are also ensuring that you have the employment numbers to support the population. So it's a very valid point, and certainly something that we and the county are taking very serious to make sure that there is the right mix, not just residential growth, but there's other types of growth, whether it's commercial or industrial as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. And I guess that brings us to the end of the items for consideration, doesn't it? So it brings us to notice of motion. Do we have any notice of motion this afternoon?
I have none.
Okay.
No.
All right, so we'll move on to community group meeting program report. Does anybody have anything they'd like to report on today? Lisa?
You know, I do.
Yeah,
Lisa,
go ahead,
if you
Lisa.
If you just give me a minute, I'm just moving. We have Glenn, Al, and I'm just moving Wayne in.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you, Mayor
so
Lennox.
just a second, Lisa, just for the rest of council's information. Lisa has an item that's of very positive news that she wanted to highlight and invited some members of the Arthur Lions Club to join us, and I agreed to permit that. It's a little out of our normal procedure, but with your indulgence, I think if you haven't heard the news already, when you hear the news, you'll understand the reason for the latitude. So with that, Lisa, please go ahead.
I just, yes, that's what I was getting to. I wanted to thank you, Mayor Lennox, for allowing me to break protocol. If we were in normal council chambers, I'd have these guys right beside me. So I would like everyone to see how excited they are.
They'll have to turn their cameras
turn
on.
the cameras on. Glenn is at work, so
there we go.
I gotta start crying. Is it okay to cry in a council meeting? And this is in regarding to the Brent Barnes Memorial Skate Park. At our last council meeting, as anyone that watched it knows, we had discussed how COVID-19 has really impacted our fundraising abilities. The Lions tend to focus a lot of their fundraising around food. So we've had some severe impacts and decided to do the park in phases, the skate park in phases, so that it wouldn't be fully complete in 2022, but we'd have something. So that leads me to what I was going to say. On September the 1st, I take a deep breath because I'm going to start crying again because I keep crying. An anonymous donor came forward with a check towards the Brent Barnes Memorial Skate Park in the amount of $100,000. And I am so thankful. And I know our Lions are thankful. I had to go to town to get ice cream. I had to tell Al to sit down, I think 3 times. And the kids are going to be so excited. And I wanted everyone to see how appreciative our Lions are. This is Glenn and Al, and Wayne doesn't have his camera turned on, but they are part of our committee. So this donate, we're not there yet, but this completely changes. It's a game changer, and it changes the scope of work that we can do within the skateboard park for 2022. We do have a committee meeting going forward next week, or on the 21st. That is next week. Discussing how we're going to approach this. But we do need the community to step forward. If there's ever a community that can step up and we can get this done, it's Wellington North and Arthur. There's quite a number of sponsorship opportunities. A small stone for $250, medium $500, a large $1,000, going right up to a table and chairs for $7,500. There has been a lot of fundraising going forward, so there is a great group of kids. Everything is going to help. In Arthur, there's a group of kids that are raising money. I've actually invited them to our next committee meeting, and they are excited to be there, and they deserve it. Whiteman actually surprised them with $1,000 contribution at our street sale Saturday. It's such good news. I don't even know what to say. I don't know whether Glenn are Glenn, Al, and Wayne allowed to speak. Mara, we didn't discuss that.
I think with council's indulgence, I'll bend the rule further.
Do either of you want to say anything? You have to turn your mic on Al.
You're still muted, Al. Now we lost your picture. Now we can see you again. There you are.
Okay. Nah, I'm still at a loss for words. It's really still unbelievable. But it, like Lisa said, it's changed the whole ball game. So we got to really take another hard look at it this upcoming meeting. But it's a big relief to know that we're now getting really close. And I just want to thank everybody and thank council for putting up with us.
Yeah, I can't even say enough thank yous. Like and I wish I could hug the person, but even with COVID-19, I guess I couldn't do that either. But yeah, so thank you so much.
Well, that's great news, and certainly we're looking forward to the next steps in the process. Sounds like it might make the target that initially set, so that's fantastic.
Amazing.
Okay.
Can I add to that?
Certainly, Glenn, go ahead.
On behalf of the Lions, I want to thank Councilors McCabe and Hearn, along with Matt, helping us direct us through this and sticking with us and making it come to fruition.
You guys are a joy to deal with. I absolutely love it.
Well, we'll look forward to the grand opening and all the steps in between. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think, did you have anything else you wanted to highlight this afternoon, Lisa?
No, that's enough for me. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. We'll move on, I think, to the next item on our list. Good to see you guys again.
Thanks a lot.
Anybody else have anything to report on in regard to the community group meeting program?
Nothing like that.
It's not a competition here, Steve. I'd just like to comment too on the success of the sidewalk Saturday on the weekend. It was good to see a whole bunch of people out, and the weather was very cooperative. Both for the limited fall fair and for the sidewalk shopping Saturday. So hopefully, and it was good to see the majority of the pavement down as well. And so thanks to our ops team and Steve and Evans for making that happen at the time involved. So it's I got a number of questions about the bump out islands on the streetscape. I think we got a lot of educating to do to explain to people why we've gone ahead and put those there, but I think it's an opportunity to talk about, you know, what we can do to manage with traffic, and maybe we can, if it's a successful venture, we can translate that elsewhere in the municipality as well to help with traffic and pedestrian, managing traffic and pedestrian conflicts elsewhere as well. So looking forward to seeing how that works. And how well people accept it and recognize what it's there for. So, that being said, I don't have anything else. Does the last call for anybody else have anything to report on? Okay. Oh, it would be wrong for me to not mention the grand opening of the hospital as well this past week. It was wonderful to see what I did of the new facility, and have an opportunity to thank all those involved who had the foresight and all the effort that went into making it happen. And a special shout out to our healthcare workers who not only had to deal with a pandemic, an international pandemic, but also a construction site at the same time. And thanks to all of them, and thanks to all the people involved, we now have an improved, expanded hospital to serve our community needs for many years to come. So. That said, we're on to bylaws, I guess. So we have 3 bylaws here, 2 related to the building officials and 1 related to the expansion of our road network in Mount Forest. So the recommendation reads as follows: the bylaw number 86-21, 87-21, and 88-21 be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that motion, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. Any discussion on any of those? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have closed meeting this afternoon, but so we'll, Karen, for this, because we're doing closed meeting later on, do we go into closed and then recess, or do we recess before we go into closed, or how do we do that?
I think we should recess because we don't want the closed minutes to show that we went into closed session at 3:30. And because it's probably going to be a half an hour or more before we get reconvened here. So we could restart a meeting just to go in. I could record a meeting just to go into closed session.
Okay, so we'll,
and that will reflect accurately how long we were in closed session.
Okay, so we're doing, for members of the public who are joining us right now, we have a closed session items to deal with today. We're doing it a little differently in that we're delaying our closed session till a little later this afternoon. So we will be actually just recessing our meeting officially for right now, reconvening to do the closed session, completing our closed session, and then completing our meeting. Anything that comes out of those closed sessions that we can allow to be public will be posted in the minutes that are recorded and distributed. So with that said, I think what we really need to do now is just recess the meeting. So I would need a motion so that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North recess the meeting. So I have a move by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? So we're recessed. And what time are we reconvening, Karen? It's 5 o'clock?
I would say 5.
Or was it sooner?
If we can reconvene sooner, I know that there's some travel involved. So would we say 4:30?
Okay.
I can get there for 4:30 easily.
Everybody's good with 4:30? Okay, let's say we're going to reconvene at 4:30 then.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
See you.